Deep in El Salvador, a huge building casts a long shadow, both literally and metaphorically. This isn't a normal prison. It's a fortress designed to contain the most dangerous elements of society. It's a giant made of concrete and steel, a sign of a country fighting its problems with an iron fist. This is the Terrorism Confinement Center, a mega prison built to hold the scariest criminals in the country, those who have terrorized communities for years. Building it in 2022 was a big moment in El Salvador's fight against gangs, a symbol of a new era. President Nayib Bukele, a leader some people don't like, made crushing the MS-13 and Barrio 18 gangs the main goal of his time as president, a mission that has defined his leadership. These gangs had caused trouble in the country for many years, spreading fear and violence. The mega prison was his way of showing he was serious about change, a bold statement to both supporters and critics. But this isn't just a story about a building, it's about the lives it will impact. It's a story about power, people who feel hopeless, and the sad things that happen because of violence, a cycle that seems never-ending. It makes us think about difficult things like justice, second chances, and what it means to be human in a world filled with conflict. As we look closer at this prison, we have to ask ourselves, will this fix El Salvador's problems, or is it a risky move that could make things worse? Only time will tell. Imagine a place where freedom is just a faraway thought, blocked by huge walls and tight security. This is the Terrorism Confinement Center, a fortress made to break even the toughest criminals. The size is amazing. It covers 410 acres and has 8 sections, each one able to hold thousands of prisoners. Walls 10 feet high, covered in razor wire, surround the prison. Another wall, 30 feet high, stands as the last barrier to the outside. An electric fence with 15,000 volts reminds everyone what happens if they try to escape. But that's not all. 19 guard towers stand tall, with guards watching everything. Signal blockers create a silent zone for over a mile, cutting off all contact with the outside world. Everything that happens inside is watched, recorded, and checked. This place takes away who you are, turning people into just numbers in a system that cares most about control. But even here, a little bit of hope still exists. Life inside the Terrorism Confinement Center is very hard. It's super crowded, with barely any room to move around. There are 32 cells in each section, and each one is supposed to hold 80 to 150 prisoners. But often, the numbers swell beyond capacity. Each man only gets about 5 square feet of space to himself. This limited space makes it hard to even lie down comfortably. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, sadness, and lost dreams. Poor ventilation adds to the suffocating atmosphere. The days all seem the same, just being locked up with not much to do. Time drags on, making every day feel like an eternity. Prisoners, all wearing the same uniform, only get to see the sun sometimes. Their outdoor time is limited and heavily monitored. Their whole world is just their tiny cell and the hallways they walk down, always watched by cameras and armed guards. Food is scarce and often insufficient. They mostly eat beans, rice, and pasta, with maybe some chicken or meat once in a while. The meals are basic and lack variety. Not having enough protein and healthy food makes many prisoners sick and weak. Malnutrition is a common issue. But even in this awful place, there are stories of people not giving up. Some prisoners show incredible resilience. Some find comfort in their faith, hoping for a better future. Religious activities provide a sense of hope and community. Others become friends, finding support in each other even though things are so bad. These bonds help them cope with the harsh reality. These stories show us that even in the darkest places, the human spirit can survive. The strength and resilience of these individuals are truly inspiring. The prisoners in the Terrorism Confinement Center carry marks of their past etched deeply into their skin. Tattoos, once signs of being in a gang, now show how their lives have changed forever. These marks are not just ink, they are a testament to their journey. Each design, drawn on their skin, tells a story of hardship, loyalty, and violence. MS-13, a notorious gang, Barrio 18, these names tattooed on their bodies make people in El Salvador afraid. They are symbols of fear and power. They are signs of a terrible reality, of a generation lost to poverty, neglect, and the desire to belong. These tattoos are a cry for identity in a world that has often ignored them. The tattoos, once something to be proud of, now mark these men as outsiders, forever labeled by their past actions. Spiderwebs, teardrops, horns, clown faces. Each symbol has a special meaning in the gang, showing rank, crimes committed, and acts of violence. They are badges of a life lived on the edge. They are a secret language, a silent code that tells a lot about the lives these men used to live. A language that speaks of brotherhood and betrayal. But as these men face the harsh reality of prison, the meaning of their tattoos begins to shift. Their tattoos take on a new meaning. They become a mirror, reflecting their past and the choices that led them here. For some, they are a source of shame, a reminder of their mistakes, a constant reminder of the lives they once led. For others, they are a sign of survival, showing the hard times they have lived through, a badge of honor for enduring the unimaginable. These tattoos are more than just ink. They are a look into the complicated and often sad world of El Salvador's gangs. They are stories written on skin, tales of a life that many cannot even begin to understand. Section 5. A nation transformed, the shifting sands of safety. Building the terrorism confinement center has changed El Salvador a lot. The number of murders, once one of the highest in the world, has dropped way down. Streets that used to be war zones between gangs are now patrolled by soldiers with lots of weapons. Fear, which used to be everywhere, is slowly being replaced by a careful hope. President Bukele, who is good at using social media, says this proves his tough methods are working. He says the drop in violence shows his government is finally bringing peace to a country that used to have lots of crime, and the numbers do seem to show that. El Salvador, once known for violence, is now being called an example for other countries with gang problems. Tourists are coming back, businesses are opening again, and things are slowly starting to feel normal. But underneath, people are still wondering. Will this peace last, or is it just temporary, built on repression and human rights abuses? Section 6. The price of peace. When silence speaks louder than words. The big drop in murders in El Salvador has come at a price. Human rights groups are worried about how this peace was achieved. Stories of killings by the police, arrests without reason, and torture make people question Bukele's security policies. Critics say his tough methods have taken away people's freedoms and created a climate of fear. They say the mass arrests of suspected gang members, often without a fair process, show a government that is willing to sacrifice individual rights for security. The government's crackdown on gangs has also made people worry about fair trials. With thousands of suspected gang members in jail, the courts are overloaded, causing long delays and claims of unfair trials. The question is, can real peace exist if there is no justice and human rights are ignored? Or will stopping one kind of violence just lead to another? Echoes of history. A global perspective on incarceration. El Salvador's mega prison isn't unique. Throughout history, governments have tried to keep order and safety, often using mass incarceration. From the gulags in the Soviet Union to the supermax prisons in the United States, using prisons to control society has a long and troubled history. These prisons might keep criminals off the streets, but they don't fix the real problems that cause crime, like poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunity. And the harsh conditions inside these prisons can actually make things worse, leading to extremism, repeat offenders, and more violence. El Salvador's situation is a warning. While the drop in crime is real, we don't know the long-term effects of putting so many people in prison. History shows us that trying to hide problems for one generation can create bigger problems for the next. A crossroads of choice. Will justice prevail or perish? El Salvador is at a crossroads. The country's future is uncertain, stuck between the hope for peace and the danger of authoritarianism. The path forward is unclear and requires careful thought and a commitment to justice, human rights, and the rule of law. Other countries have an important role to play in El Salvador's future. By supporting human rights groups, encouraging conversation, and making sure the government is responsible for its actions, the international community can help make sure that peace doesn't come at the cost of basic freedoms. In the end, it's up to the people of El Salvador to build a fair and just country. By demanding accountability, talking peacefully, and working to fix the real problems that cause violence, they can create a future where peace and justice win. Beyond these walls, a call for understanding and action. The story of El Salvador's mega prison reminds us that achieving peace is complicated. It makes us think about difficult things about ourselves, our societies, and the choices we make when faced with violence and fear. As we've seen, using mass incarceration to stop crime is risky and can have unexpected results. It might stop violence for a little while, but it doesn't fix the social and economic problems that cause crime in the first place. Instead of building more prisons, we need to find real solutions that fix the root causes of violence and promote social justice. This means investing in education, creating jobs, and building a culture of conversation and forgiveness. We must remember that inside every prison, there are people with stories, hopes, and dreams for a better future. We need to listen to them, understand their struggles, and work together to create a world where everyone can live in peace and dignity.